Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to join you once again on this Facebook Live. My name is Diane Garza. I'm the CEO and founder of iCatalyze, where I focus on leadership development and coaching. And I'm really excited today to be talking about how to cultivate your leadership presence. You might be wondering why I'm talking about this today, and it's because I've had so many coaching sessions in the past 2 to 3 weeks with different people from completely different countries, different cultures, and they all seem to be struggling around this same issue. It manifests in different ways, but I thought, it would be great to create a video because I'm sure that more people want to learn more about this and how they can cultivate leadership presence in their own career, in their own life. And so the 4 things I'm going to talk to you about today to help you in cultivating your leadership presence are: 1, every interaction you have is an opportunity to demonstrate the type of leader you want to be. 2, don't be afraid to claim your achievements. That's a doozy. 3, speak up at meetings, and I'll give you some tips on how to do that. And 4, reframe your thoughts. Our thoughts, as you know, I always talk about this, our thoughts have a big impact on our emotions and our actions, and they can lead us to big results. So I'm going to dive deep into each of these 4. But before I do that, for those of you that don't know me, like I said, I'm an executive coach and a leadership educator. I've worked with Georgetown University for more than 10 years in developing and implementing leadership programs for people from all walks of life and all sectors. I now work through my own company, iCatalyze, which is a page that you're on, and I basically try to empower people to expand their leadership capacity so they can catapult their career or business. I do that through coaching and through workshops. So I'm really excited to share these things with you today. If you feel this might be valuable for someone, go ahead and share the video. And at any time during the broadcast, if you have questions or comments, or if you just want to give me a thumbs up, please go ahead. We'll make this as interactive as possible. And even if you're watching in the replay, that's okay. Make sure you put any questions or comments you may have, because I always go back to check in and make sure I can support you the best I can. So let's dive in now. Without further ado, how can you cultivate your leadership presence? All right, so a little bit of background. What do I mean when I say leadership presence? What I'm trying to get at is the fact that you do not have to wait until you have a leadership role or title to be a leader or to act like a leader. No matter where you are in an organization, it's really important for you to show up and show how you add value and start building your leadership presence. From day one. And so what I try to show people is the importance of developing the mindset and also the actions that will get you noticed and will keep you top of mind whenever there might be some new opportunities, whenever that there might be these exciting things that you can do at your company or whether it's your business as well. And so the first tip that I mentioned was every interaction you have is an opportunity to demonstrate the type of leader that you want to be. And so, again, like I said, you don't have to wait until you have a title. There could be everyday opportunities for you to show how you add value. Many times, by showing up, you'll start to be top of mind for people. And what happens, a lot of times we say, well, I don't want to speak up at a meeting, or I'm too shy, or maybe I don't have the right answer. But we're letting go of opportunities where other people can have their voice heard, other people are being noticed, and we are not being noticed. And so it is important for us to take small opportunities, whether it's interactions one-on-one with our managers, one-on-one interactions with our colleagues, or being in meetings or in larger settings where we can show our value. And so one way to do this, it has to do with building your personal brand. Right, and so a lot of people think, well, that's just for the influencers, or that's only, if I want to, have a blog or be online. But it's really important for you to build that brand of who you are and what type of value do you bring to the table. And it's not about creating this false persona and, oh, what do I want people to think about me? I'm going to trick them. It's not about that. It really is about being authentic, because people have a sixth sense. They can detect when somebody is lying or is not being authentic. And so the more authentic you can be, the better. And so here's some things I want you to think about as you're building your personal brand. Think about, what's your mission? What type of impact do you want to have? Whether it's through work or just life in general, what is it that really drives and motivates you? Those are the types of things that you want to keep in mind as those motivators and things that you're working toward. Also think in a more concrete way about what are your strengths and what are your abilities? How can you leverage them to put yourself in situations where you will have a greater chance for success if you are using your strengths. A lot of times we just kind of sit and wait, and we think that by inertia, the opportunities will knock on our door and will find us, but we really have to be proactive and seek opportunities or create opportunities by having conversations with our managers or our colleagues and trying to create things around our own strengths where we can be even more valuable to the team or to the company. Some other things you want to think about as you're building, that personal brand is what are your sweet spots? What are those topics that you're really passionate about or that you really care about, or maybe it's a topic that you've really focused on, you've really developed and studied a lot. So those are really important things for you to keep in mind so that, again, you can then be strategic when you raise your hand for a project or when you raise your hand for a new assignment, that they're going to be based on things where you can provide the most value. And again, that's how you start to be seen as, Diane, she's a person that really is really passionate about leadership. So let's talk to her about this project that's coming up. Okay. And so now that you've thought about this in general, about your vision for yourself, the type of impact you want to have, what are your strengths and abilities, and what are your sweet spots for topics, then I want you to try to be more intentional, right? Be more intentional about your interactions at work, in conversations. And again, it's once you have that information, you can have, you can make comments to people or make sure you focus on certain things. So for example, speaking up at meetings, right? In topics that you really care about, and I'll talk more about speaking up at meetings in a little bit. You can, again, raise your hand for projects that that you're going to have a greater possibility of excelling because they are within your sweet spot, they are within your strengths. And also, I don't want you to forget about the external factors, right? So a lot of times we only think about our presence within a company, within our current organization, but there's, social media and technology has given us so many tools that there's a lot that we can do to complement our personal brand with these tools and do it externally. So you can, look for events and networking groups around you that are within your mission and goals, within these topics that you really care about. That's how you can start to put yourself out there, start to be seen as a thought leader, start to be seen as someone who's really passionate about these topics. And that's how, new opportunities may also arise from there, or people within your company will take note and say, wow, did you notice how Diane was giving a speech on a panel, right, the other day? And so all of these little things add up and they build up to create that brand of what do you want to be known for. Also, don't forget about social media, right? We're already there anyway. We're here on Facebook, we're on different platforms. And so you may want to start thinking about how you present yourself on social media, right? We all know that when we go for job interviews, recruiters are looking at our profiles. Most people, when we meet them, they might Google us. So it is important to be very mindful of the sorts of pictures, the sorts of content that you put out there. But even beyond that, you might want to be more intentional in developing content that's more related to your topics, your area of expertise, and what you're really passionate about. So whether it's sharing articles that you find that are really interesting, sharing that on LinkedIn or on other platforms, or also just developing your own content, whether you write a brief article on LinkedIn, you can share it on many platforms, whether it's sharing quotes related to that topic. So it's really important for you to consider all these different elements as you're building your personal brand. And the most important thing is don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to do it, to just start it. And the earlier you can do it, the better, because that way you start to develop the trajectory, and you can always evolve. You can always modify it along the way, but at least just get started. Just take that first step. All right, so that was my first tip on every interaction that you have is an opportunity to demonstrate the type of leader you want to be. Number two, don't be afraid to claim your achievements. And this topic that I'm going to talk about, I drew a lot from a book that I recommend highly. It's from Sally Helgeson and Marshall Goldsmith. It's called How Women Rise. They say a lot of times, we think that we're just showing off, or we're being arrogant if we claim our achievements in a meeting or within an organization. And it's really sad, because we think with this either or mentality, right? Either I'm going to be this arrogant, show off, or I take the completely opposite approach and I just don't even talk about it. I ignore it. Or I say, oh, well, my work will speak for itself. How many of us have said that or thought that, right? Oh, my work is really good. It's solid. It'll speak for itself. Here's the thing. Most people have a lot of other work on their plates. They have a lot of things going on and deadlines. They're not, sifting through and looking to see what everybody is particularly working on. And so that leads to the danger that something that you could be working on could be left on the sidelines, fall through the cracks and not really be noticed. And so there is this whole middle ground, right? There's these two extremes, but that either or mentality is actually a trap, and then can keep us silent and not really speaking up. So it is important for you to find a way to speak, because think about it. If you can't portray the value in what you're doing, then other people won't value it because they think you don't value it. And so it is important for you to not be afraid to mention it, right? To talk about what you're doing. First, you have to believe in it. You have to believe that what you're doing is valuable, is worthwhile, and then in an authentic way. Again, it really just comes down to authenticity. You can feel inside of yourself when something feels a little icky, when you're like, this is not really me. Well, then keep it within those parameters where you feel comfortable talking, and you're just sharing an experience. You're sharing what you're working on. You might want to use that as an opportunity to get feedback and say, hey guys, this is what I've been working on. What do you think? What do you suggest? What can we do to take this to the next level? Another way that you can approach this is to have an ally. Maybe it's a colleague that you're working with, or somebody that's very trusted within your organization, and they can speak up on your behalf, or they can bring it up and then segue to you so you can add more detail. So there's many ways that you can do this in a way that is, again, authentic, in a way that is graceful, and so you don't come off as a show off. Somebody did ask me this question, right? How do you find that balance between being a show off, being a know-it-all, right, and being an expert? And so I think, again, it really comes down to authenticity, to really being aware, read the room, right? Just notice when it's a good opportunity, excuse me, to share, and do it in a way that is authentic. And also, what really will help is if you think of your why. Why is this important? Why is this project important? Why is this task important to the greater team or to the greater company? And that can help you motivate and present it in a way that shows value, so people can see, oh wow, it is really important that Diane is working on this project because it's going to help me in the future, or it's going to trickle over. And so by finding that why and always presenting yourself in a way in which you're adding value will really help you with that. So the third tip that I want to talk about is speak up at meetings. Just do it. I can't tell you how many times I've had, coaching sessions where men and women, struggle with this. They have these thoughts to themselves of, well, everyone here is smarter, or maybe I'm younger, maybe I don't have as much experience. Definitely a lot of imposter syndrome that kicks in these moments. And here I want to share, a few tips that I think are really important. They come from Allison Shapira. She is a public speaking expert, and she recently wrote a book called Speak with Impact. And she talks about certain things. She did some research on these financial companies, and she talked to different heads of these companies, and all of them said the same comment again and again. They said, if you're in a meeting, if you're in the room for a meeting, they expect you to speak up. Don't wait for someone to ask you. And so that's the thing. A lot of times we forget that if we've been invited to a meeting, it's for a reason, right? We start to build up these thoughts in our heads, which I want to talk about in my next tip. The imposter syndrome starts coming up, and that, well, maybe my answer is incorrect. Maybe someone else will say it. And all of these things then end up keeping us silent, right? We paralyze ourselves with fear and we don't speak up, or we're nervous. And so some things that can help you in speaking up at meetings, because again, you're there for a reason. You know, you're part of the team. You've got an element of information that is necessary for whatever it is that they're discussing. So remember that. Some things that can help you is A, prepare a few bullets ahead of time, right? So if you know that it's going to be about a certain topic, just get some fun facts ready or get some updates ready. Have some bullets with you so that you can have, you know, that information. You don't have to necessarily just, you know, always be off the cuff. You can have some information ready so that you feel prepared, and it'll give you that extra bit of confidence. Also, the second tip that she mentions is ask why you, right? And so she mentions that it is important for you to think about, well, you know, you are an important part of this organization and this team, and there's a particular role that you have. Why? You know, why is it that you have been called up to talk about this topic? That can help you and increase your confidence. Remind you that, you know, you're not trying to show off. You're actually being brought into this meeting because of a particular experience that you have with this subject. So we need you to speak up because we want that contribution from you. And also pause and breathe. Okay, so a lot of times, again, you know, that nervousness kicks in, these emotions, and we get stuck in our heads. And next thing we know, the meeting ended, right? And we were just kind of stuck in this whirlwind in our minds. So it really helps you if you just take a moment, whether it's before or even during the meeting, you can do this. Just pause, take a few deep breaths. It'll help you get centered, get grounded again, and sort of build up that confidence and say, okay, now I'm ready. Now I'm going to talk. Now I'm going to answer the question, or now I'm going to contribute. Okay. And again, all of these moments, people are watching you. People are listening. If you don't speak up, the meeting will go by and you won't be noticed, right? And so all of these things build up to create that leadership presence. And if you're not speaking, people are not hearing your voice, you're not going to be taken into account. And the last thing that I want to talk about is the fourth tip is reframe your thoughts. And so again, I already alluded to this, the fact that a lot of times we go into these situations, whether it's a meeting one-on-one or with groups, and we are already thinking to ourselves that, you know, I'm not as smart as this person, maybe my answer is wrong, maybe they don't want to hear what I have to say. We're creating an entire scenario in our mind that isn't even true, but we're believing it, and then we're letting those thoughts guide our actions. And many times those actions are, we don't speak up, or, you know, we're nervous, we get caught up, we stutter, right, as we're trying to get something out. And so it's really important for you to think about other possible perspectives in these situations. Maybe people do want to hear you, right? You are smart, you are enough. You're in that meeting for a reason, right? You're bringing your experience, you're bringing your knowledge to the table. You're adding to the discussion, right? Everybody has something that they're good at. Everybody has different strengths, and you're bringing your own strengths to the table. So remind yourself of that and say, yes, I do have something to contribute. I do have something to say. And you know, even if you have to develop it like a mantra, like a mini pep talk that you give yourself, you know, it's really important to reframe, to flip the switch on those thoughts, on those negative thoughts, because when you have more positive thoughts, it'll generate better feelings. You're going to start to feel better about yourself, feel more confident, and that'll eventually help you to speak up. And by speaking up, it's going to have a bigger impact in you being noticed, in people seeing, wow, you know, she really brings a lot of value to our group. Maybe she'd be ready for, you know, such and such other opportunity. So all of these things add up into what is our leadership presence. Okay, so these are the four tips that I wanted to share with you today. Again, those are: every interaction you have is an opportunity to demonstrate the type of leader you want to be. 2, don't be afraid to claim your achievements. 3, speak up at meetings. Again, don't be afraid. And 4, reframe your thoughts. So is there any of these that you want to try? You want to give it a try this week, or maybe next week when you have a meeting, when you have an interaction with other colleagues? Let me know in the comments. If you have any questions, also let me know. I'm going to be sure to post the links to the books that I mentioned and some additional articles that you might find helpful. And again, if there's anything else that I can help you with in your own leadership development, in your own career growth, just let me know. You know how to find me here on iCatalyze. Thank you so much for your attention. I hope you took away something interesting and learned something new. Thanks, guys. Take care.